So for us, when we were thinking about starting our family, in my head, I wanted an all natural birth. And that was my goal from the very beginning. And then we got pregnant with our son, and we had a super easy birth, but when it came right down to the end, I was having a lot of trouble in the last month or so with my blood pressure, and I felt pressured almost to like, let's get this baby out. And at that time, like, it was my first kid, I was a new mom, and I had midwives, but they were at the hospital, and so it was part of the hospital system, so it was still ending in the birth center. And I just wanted to meet him so bad, and because it was our first kid, and I was like, I'm done being pregnant, I just want to meet this child. So I felt like it was very easy for me to get swayed into like, let's induce. And I was like, oh, we're having the baby right now, okay. Like, I was super excited, and I just didn't have the background knowledge, like looking back on it, after I'd given birth to him, I was like, that's not how I wanted it to go. But I kind of it just kept rolling forward, and I didn't have enough information to be autonomous, to stand up for myself, to stop what was kind of rolling at that point. And so, yeah, they just kept telling me my blood pressure was high, but my readings at home weren't. They were only high there. And so when they said, let's induce, I said, okay, fine, let's do it. Let's have this baby. And I didn't know anything about induction, which was why it was so easy to talk me into it, because after that I was like, this was terrible. Why did we agree to this? So it took 3 days. I went on Halloween, and he was born November 3rd. So I just remember feeling after that, like, I failed. And like, I don't know, like, that feeling was like, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. My mom had 2 natural births. I was supposed to have a natural birth. I like had my whole natural birth plan, and I had spent so much time on it, and then we didn't do any of it. For better or worse, like, I think if you don't know anything and they're telling you your blood pressure is like this, they're the medical professional, and I had just grown up in that system, so it seemed normal. And so then so that was our first child. Our second child, same situation. I was working in a really high stress job, and that I ended up quitting because my blood pressure was getting high, and I was like, I can't do this again. And they promised, they were like, the second induction is not as long as the first induction. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I was getting more and more like, I don't know, kind of jaded by the system. And I was like, I want to get out of this. I want a natural birth, but I don't know how. Like, I've never stepped out of the medical system, but I know it's what I want. So that one took 15 hours, which I was like, good, I cut my time, like, so much, like, this was, but still, that one, they messed up the Pitocin, and so I was having all these Pitocin contractions before they could get the epidural to me, and I felt like my body was cracking into a million pieces. And so after that one, I was like, I'm not doing it again. And that's when we got pregnant with our third son, and I was like, we can't do this again. And so I had a ton of friends who had come to Roots and Wings and were so, like, amazing, like, just had the best experiences. So I said, okay, like, that's the way we're doing it. And I think at that point, my husband could kind of tell that, I think at that point we had confidence behind us, at least for our story. Like, when I sat in my cohort and had all the first-time moms, I was like, you guys are so brave, because that was not me the first time. I just, like, didn't know what I didn't know. And by the third time, I was like, I know my body. Like, I know what to expect. I didn't know what I was going to do naturally, but I knew the process. Mm-hmm. And I just had this feeling like those 2 births did not need to be forced. They did not need to be inductions. And so when we came to Roots and Wings, from the very beginning, I just felt like, oh, they're listening to me, like, this is my plan. And I learned so much. I think I came home every time I came here and was like, guess what I learned about my body? And it just felt so weird, because my husband was like, you're 35. Why you didn't know that? And they don't teach you that. Like, it was so often that I was sitting there thinking, this is what I should have learned in high school health class. Like, it's crazy that it took me 3 births and just, like, finally being like, enough. Like, I'm not putting myself in that situation anymore. Another thing that happened in the second one was that I was hemorrhaging. And I would go to the bathroom, and there'd be a ton of blood, I guess, but nobody was telling me. They just were sending in nurse after midwife after doctor. And finally the doctor, like, came in, and I said, what's going on? And they're like, there's just a lot of clotting in the toilet, and we're just worried about your placenta. And I just felt like, what? It's happening to me. Like, it's me. It's my body. Like, I should have been part of this. Why am I asking what's going on? And so that was a huge difference for me. And after that, it was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And so I just think from the very beginning, once we made the decision, I just kept saying, I think to you and Laura, and like, I want a redemptive birth. Like, I just felt so bad about myself. And like, I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't stand up for myself. So many pieces, I just felt disappointed in myself and in the system and the way that I like look back at those births now. And so, to come to this story, I had a whole plan, and the plan did not go accordingly. But yeah, so I had been, with my second son, I had contractions the whole last month. So I was not thinking when I was having contractions with my third son, like, this is anything. My doula thought the Sunday before that I was going into labor because I was having contractions, and we were even timing them, and then they just stopped. And he ended up being born on Friday, so like a whole week before, we were convinced, like, this baby is coming, and he was not. And so on Thursday, I came in here, and Laura, this is always such a good reminder, because even my friends were saying, you don't know how far, like, the numbers mean nothing. And I was like, I know, I knew it, but like in your head, you're still like, but I want them to mean something. Like, surely I'm dilated. And I was 41 weeks, so I was like, surely something's going on. And Laura was like, I can't even do a membrane sweep. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what? And she was like, I promise the baby will come out. And I was like, you say that, but like, I could be the first. You don't know. Like, I could be the first baby to like go to college with my child still inside. And so she assured me that wouldn't happen. And like, nothing was dilated. Nothing was doing anything. My body, like, no acknowledgement that it was supposed to give birth 9 days before this. And so I thank God that I already had 2 kids to keep me busy, because if this was my first kid, I would have been like, what's wrong with me? Like, this is terrible. I mean, I would have been induced because I would have not known that this was the natural progression, and I wouldn't have had you guys, telling me like, this is normal, I promise you. All the babies have been born. And so then that night at 2, 3 in the morning, I woke up and I was having some contractions, and I was like, whatever, it's nothing. Like, this baby has no plan for anything. And I went to the bathroom and I called the doula because I was like, I'm having contractions. And she was like, let me listen to them. Or I said, do you think I should call the midwife? And she said, I don't know. You don't sound out of breath. Like, it seems pretty, whatever. So I was like, okay, I'll give it some time. She's like, I'm awake though. It was like 3:30 in the morning. I was like, okay. So I hung up with her. I walked into the bathroom, projectile vomited everywhere. You would think, third child, who I had puked the last 2 in transition. At no point was my brain like, a baby's coming. I was like, oh man, like, I don't feel good. I must have eaten something. Okay. So I didn't even call her back. I was like, whatever. I cleaned the bathroom because I was like, well, now I'm up. So I cleaned the whole bathroom. I get in the shower and I'm like, oh, these are getting like a lot more intense, but still not, not Pitocin contractions, which is what my brain was expecting, I think. And so it wasn't comparing. It was like, this is clearly nothing. And so then I got out of the shower after like 20 minutes and I called her back and I was like, I don't know, like, they're getting closer together. I think maybe you should come over here. And it was thundering in January. Like, I didn't even realize because I was in my little bubble and pouring rain. And so she left and I walked back to get my husband because I had told him, like, don't bother getting up when I first got up. So now it's probably like 4 o'clock, like 30 minutes has gone, maybe 35 since I've like thrown up and showered. And I'm like, I think you should get up. So he was like, okay. So he like gets up. And I made it maybe 5 steps from the bed to the living room, literally dropped down on all fours and was like, I'm overheating. Like, can you get me an ice pack? So he walks to the kitchen, which our house is 1,200 square feet. So he walks two rooms, comes back, and Ben is in my arms. And he goes, what the hell happened? And I was like, the baby came. It was crazy. Like, I think it's taken me a whole year to process it, honestly, because just there were so many parts of it, and like, I felt bad that he wasn't there, but it was like so involuntary. Like, in my head, the only thing I remember thinking was, keep the baby in, you're going to tear. And I didn't have an epidural, so I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so bad. And I couldn't. It was like definitely that like fetal ejection reflex. Is that what? And I had never experienced that, obviously, and I had epidurals before, and so I just, like, it was so different from all my other births, and another thing was my blood pressure never got high. So I'm like convinced that that was just like white coat, like in the hospital high. But it was so just like how it was meant to be. We joked after that I had like joked about free birth so many times that the universe was like, let's do it. And then so he came back and I'm like holding the baby and he's like froze because he's like, do we call the midwife? Do we tell her? And I'm like, I think, yeah. They still have to come. Like, we don't know what we're doing right now. And later I was talking to my friend about it and she was like, were you not so panicked? And I said, I was not panicked from the beginning to, like, at no point was fear part of it. And I think because of my first two experiences, I'd made up in my mind, like, this is what I'm doing. And I'd even made a joke to Laura because I was about to, like get out of care because I was about to be 42 weeks. And so I was like, if you're not there, like, I'm still having this baby at home. Like, I was like, I am not going back to that hospital. So, like, if I have to just chug castor oil, like, right now, I will do it in front of you, like, whatever I have to do. And so I think that really helped. It was, like, very euphoric and not even in, like, a twinkle lights, magical, like, it was primal. I mean, it was hands and knees. Like, my body took over. I had made no decisions, and that was like kind of the beautiful part for me because it was like my body was doing it, not the medical team. And like I had a healthy baby and he was screaming immediately, and like, so there wasn't, I think that's when it would have been after something, you know, but he was healthy and whatever, and we'd had such good care up until then. There was nothing to be concerned about. So I think not having that fear hinder any of it was like what made it was what I was like expecting. But then I like later when I was thinking about it, I was like, that was the easiest birth, like the most perfect birth. And I'm like tough because of my first two births. Like the way that I was feeling about myself, having like disappointed having had an epidural and not like, those births were so much harder. Like I was a warrior through those births, like 3 days compared to like maybe 30 minutes. It changed it back changed my view of like everybody's births, because since then, like I'd had a couple friends who had C-sections and I was like, I can't imagine, like, you're so strong coming back and being able to like recover from that. Because like, I literally, like, stood up and got in the shower. And Laura, was it you or Laura? Somebody was like, no, get a step stool. And I was like, I'm doing great. Like, I just had a bit. It's fine. It's perfect. Like, it was beautiful and perfect in that way. It was what I wanted, but I wasn't expecting it to, like, kind of heal the first two births that weren't perfect. So, like, in that way, that was, like, the most unexpected part of it, I think, for me. And then just to like be able to like have that birth kind of for myself, it forever, it's just going to be me and him on the living room floor, you know, like just absurd. I do feel a little guilty that my husband wasn't in the room, but he walked back in right then, you know. And I also just like having had the other kids, like we were able to be home and wake them up, and our 3-year-old at the time son cut his umbilical cord, which I felt kind of was like full circle for us. That part was really sweet that we got to do. And I don't know, I think it was like what was meant for our family, like to kind of step out of being told what was going to happen to us and being able to take charge of the situation. I think it was really good for my husband too, because it was a situation where I like had the control and was making decisions, and he's always very much like, whatever you want, like, let's do it, but still likes to have the control of the situation, and I think feels safer in like a situation where there's medical like professionals in a hospital, like what we grew up in. And so for me to say like I want to do something alternatively, it was really good for us to kind of get to do that as a family together, and for him to see like this is actually such more in-depth care. You're learning a ton, I'm learning a ton, like our children are like came to appointments and were able to be part of it. And I like remember when our second son was born, like having our first in the hospital kind of seemed like stepping on, you know, I was like, oh, is he allowed in here, you know? But with our third, it was like, this is their home. Like, their brother came into their house. So that was not the room that had all the twinkly lights or the music ready. I had bought different light, like dim red lamp thing for all the lamps, and they were in there for like the whole rest of the winter, but we couldn't even see. But I was like, we have to appreciate this room with these twinkle lights that we set up as signs, like, welcome home, Benny. And then I'm just like on like the unvacuumed living room floor. Fine. It's fine. But
that's how birth goes, though, right? Like, it is whatever it needs to be, right? When you let it unfold, as it wants to, like naturally should, it is whatever it needs to be. And it is rarely what we expect, but it is beautiful.
Yeah, it definitely like shaped us kind of as a family. And I say, like, I'm trying to talk my husband into having a fourth one now, so I hesitate to be like, this is exactly how it should end, but because I hesitate to say this is I want another one, and so this is our, I hesitate to say this is our end child, but I'm like, that was so much fun. Like, don't you want to do this all over again? We had such a good time. It was so easy. It was way better than like having to pack a hospital bag and like figure out childcare. So yeah, that part of it, I'm like, 30 minutes in and out. We got this kid. I mean, him and I
time you went to the kitchen.
Right, yeah, you couldn't even make it to the kitchen and back. Like, your showers take longer than my births take. So I just think that should go down as, like, the power of a woman. Just, But, yeah, it was redemptive, especially, like, coming off a 3-day birth to a 30-minute birth and just seeing, I guess just for me, seeing what my body was capable of doing when I trusted it. And I just, I had all my affirmations all around the house that I had no time to read. So it's a really good thing that he came 10 days late, because I had all extra time to be like, remember that you trust your body and your body was meant to do this. I don't know. It just ended up being a really, like, beautiful experience, and kind of it brought it all back together, and I think taught us all to trust a little bit more in, like, ourselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, if I could promise myself that birth, I would have as many kids. But I still will tell Laura, like, I'm not going back there. Now I know how beautiful it is. Except for you guys having to drive out in that crazy storm.
Storms bring the babies, man.
Well, this year his first birthday was on that snowstorm. I was like, I think it's you. I think you're summoning, like, we had to cancel his first birthday party. And I was like, what is this? Stop doing that. Like, last year a crazy thunderstorm, this year a snowstorm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He's very much that baby, though. Like, everything he does is last minute. Oh, he's never going to crawl. Oh, now he can crawl. Like, you turn around and he's crawling. You're like, how long have you known how to do that for? So.
I say all the time that babies' birth stories reflect their personalities.
Yeah.
They do.
He's just like last minute, and then he's like, oh,
you're right.
That was easy. You guys didn't think I could crawl? You didn't think I could walk? What are we doing here? Yeah. Well, for me, the immediacy, actually, of postpartum was so much different than my other 2 births. The doula made eggs and tea and fed my children in, like, Betty was getting weighed, and you guys were, like, taking care of him and me, and, like, it was just felt so wholesome and, like, organic, like, how it was meant to be, and how my grandmother and my great-grandmother, like, experienced this, that I think we've come so far from in our society now. And, like, I just felt, that's kind of another thing postpartum I felt, was, like, this connection back to, like, my grandparents and like, this is how it would have been for them, like, this community that they've been part of for however long, I mean, longer, but in our case, at 9 months from when I found out and started doing the cohort, and having, like, an hour each time to be like, what are you, like, let's learn what's going on, like, tell me what's your family, like, your family's here, just that kind of stuff that I felt like when you came into my house that day, it was like, oh, your friends are here to, like, be part of your baby's birth. And so, like, that part of the It Takes a Village, that we've lost the village, I think, like, midwifery is kind of bringing back to us. Like, this is your village. And I didn't know anything about when you were like, who else can come? I'm like, who other people can come? Like, what do you mean other people can come? You only can have one person in the labor and delivery room, And so I think in the immediacy of postpartum, having that community there, right there, and being like, oh, we're all in the bed, you know, we're all like working in this one room together for this family, and having like tea brought to the bedside, and well, also the fact that I could just eat the entire time. Not that I ate anything, but like I could have if I wanted to. Like you guys being like, have a cheese stick. I'm like, what? That's crazy. But yeah, just having like healthy food and wholesome, I think that set me up for the rest of postpartum. And it was like a reminder that like this was a slow part. Like it wasn't supposed to be like a baby out, take a bath by now. We have to do this by this so that you can get home, put the baby in the car seat and make sure it fits and let's go home. And like, it was so much more of like, what does the family need? What's the baby need? What does mom need? Like all together and making it kind of work all together. And that was such a good lead in to the rest of postpartum as a reminder of being slow and like taking the time for our family. And I think that's like another place that it was good for our whole family to kind of see like this is what it's supposed to be like. And also just the education I got before then, like from you guys about how to eat and how to like take care of myself after, was just information I didn't have the first 2 times. That was really valuable in postpartum. And I had an easy postpartum. I think listening to my body, letting it do what it was supposed to do, not having all of the interventions, like letting it do what it was meant to do, just made for such an easier postpartum experience. And I think having the relationship, like it was so easy to be like, let me just message Rebecca and say, like, is this normal? Like, my baby's not latching. Is there, like, what lactation consultant did you give me in cohort 6 that I'm, like, at that point, like, wrote down feverishly, but now, like, have lost? Where, like, I'm never gonna, I don't know, just not me. Well, I wouldn't even know all the names of the nurses that were coming and going because of the shift changes and all that. So you're not gonna, like, message back the labor and delivery nurse and be like, hey, remember me? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have that village piece and the comfortability with people. And safety when there is, like, something does arise after. For me, the biggest takeaway was the knowledge about my body and the fact that I can, like, move my pelvis in a different way in a different part of labor that makes the baby, like, why don't I already know these things? This is my 3rd kid. Like, they should have at least told me the first kid if they weren't going to tell me when I was 18, you know? Like, I think that was the biggest, like, whoa, this is not how it should be. And then the wholesomeness of it was like the heart kind of takeaway for me, like the power in myself to be like, you can actually do this. It's not, I think that's the part that I want to like push forward. Like it's with my friends when they're having babies, I'm like, have you considered, like, I just think you're going to come out of that feeling so much more empowered.
If you go back to yourself before you had babies, with the knowledge and experience you have now, what is something you would want to tell yourself before you got pregnant for the first time?
I think to trust my original instincts. From the very beginning, I wanted a natural birth. And along the way, it was not a thing of, oh, you're not having that. It was like, okay, yeah, we're going to try. We could probably make that happen. Put it down and we'll read it in the birth plan. So it wasn't like, oh, no. Like, you're gonna have, but it slowly, like, one intervention led to the next intervention to the next, and I just felt like, so, like, little things were breaking apart to then when I had no control over it anymore was when I wanted the most control, and I was like, well, now I can't get it back, like, a baby is coming out of me. And so I think if I had to tell 2021 me going into the first birth, like, there's a reason that your body innately wants this home birth. Like, you can be brave right now, and trust your body. At the time, I think I didn't know any better. So that would be my biggest, like, trust these thoughts you're already having because there's a reason that you're having them. I'm grateful that we got to that point so I could kind of heal. It's just crazy that his birth healed all of them kind of in its own way, you know, like that was the beautiful part of it at the end for me. Even though his birth was nothing of what I even imagined. Like, that's even the craziest part, you know, but it was how it meant to be. And like, at the end, it just being him and me was even kind of what I needed. Like, I went from being completely under the control of somebody else to like, it's just me. Like, it's just it's just my body. My brain was like not involved. My body was like, push. And I was like, I don't want to. And I'm like, you don't have a choice. The baby's in your arms, so too bad. You already did it. Yeah. So that would be it. Like, just trust yourself from the get-go. There's a reason you're feeling those feelings.